It's a great Sunday morning, and I'm really inspired to give Agrawool another test run today and to help clarify any questions or concerns anyone may have on hydration for Agrawool for maximum performance, as well as to talk a little bit about sustainability in general, what it is, what it isn't, how we source our materials for design work, and so forth. So let's get started. Well, I'm in my garden, first of all, in the woods, so I have a lot of both planted and naturally growing, naturalized specimens that I can cut from grasses and shrubs, ornamental and otherwise. So it's something that I've always built on, mostly through the use of perennials, and that way I can divide them and get 3 times as many as I started with. And I've got quite a collection of really usable product that is growing in my own garden naturally without pesticides. So you're going to see a naturalized landscape. This isn't perfect, just like floristry. So we're going to walk around here, and really excited about this old azalea that I've transplanted 3 times. The deer love it, and it's just budding up really nicely. So it's nice to see, a little late in the season though. Excuse me. Miss Kim, my lilac, is starting to bud up next to the dwarf Alberta spruce. I had edged out a bed here, and as you can see, I've let it go wild, and the daylilies are both spreading and being eaten, so I think they're kind of balancing out. So I get daylilies, and the deers get a good lunch too, so we coexist. And the bleeding hearts I'm bringing in from all over. This scented bleeding heart, the eximia, is a staple for me all summer long, and it naturalizes, and it just loves the conditions here, just letting it go wild. So it's coming back to me in spades, which is great. And talking about that, the lime, this chartreuse spirea that started out in another part of the garden over 10 years ago has now been divided and needs trimming for the first time this year. I wanted to cover the background, but what was underneath the deck, and do it with color and with usable product. And spirea, well, it's perfect. So over here is my little outdoor studio, and this was set up for Boston Design Week, and I've used it for other small scale works that I've done. And we've set up this arch next to my weeping fastigate copper beech, which is really enjoying it now. It's leafed out. It's beautiful. And now I just want to get started. I want to talk about Agrawool that we're bringing in from Holland, Agrawool International. And it's a great product. It's 100% biodegradable, as everyone knows about now, and really the superior alternative to the plastic-based, single-use plastic-based product, otherwise known as floral foam or Oasis floral foam. We get a generic term, much like Kleenex. It's become part of the culture that much. So the green bricks are plastic, and all other resulting brick formulas that have been produced by many different companies throughout the world all are relying on a simple single-use plastic-based application. These don't, they turn into microplastics after they break down, whether it's breaking down in an enhanced manner or not. It's never biodegradable. It simply isn't, because it just grades down into little microplastics, and that's where the damage happens, and that's what we need to avoid. So I'm a lover of water, and one of the things about Agrawool is that it's very efficient, extremely efficient. Almost everyone I've spoken to or listened to in their reaction to the product is that it readily accepts water. You do not float it in a huge tub of water in order for it to absorb. It accepts water immediately and gradually. So if you know this trick and you're aware of it, and hopefully more people become aware of it, you don't need to soak it in a big tub that, you know, in the old days, the old school way is a big tub of water, and you put the green bricks in, and then they slowly go down, but you have to wait 4 minutes minimum. Otherwise, there could be air pockets. And everyone knows what happens when there's an air pocket in a single-use plastic-based floral brick mechanic. Failure. So when this product was developed and I tested it for the first time, I just sort of marveled at the fact that I could direct pour, and you immediately see the difference. You see the difference there of the color. It goes from the light brown color to a dark brown immediately. I'll go in the back of the brick, and you'll see this is the ribbed side. And again, immediately absorbs the water. It doesn't repel. So sure, I mean, I could do a huge gallon or 5-gallon thing of water to absorb a brick or two, but I find that just doing a direct pour conserves water, and that's part of sustainability. We want to try to protect the source. The source isn't just the rose garden, or in some cases it seems someone else's garden without permission. The source is everything that's coming up for you to use. It's the sunshine, it's the right temperatures. This is absorbing really well. And now I will finish this off. And I'm going to turn the brick over. Sorry, I just did that a little fast. But when I turn the brick over, you can get a good sense that it's about halfway, and that took about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So now I'm just flipping the brick over. You don't even need to do this. I'm doing this just to show you the process. But you may want to just finish off your pour. And yeah, you be mindful so we don't waste water. The last thing we want is a big bucket of water that's not potable to drink. That's part of sustainability. It's just being mindful in your practice. So while some may think this is more work, I just think it's being a little more aware and mindful. We are now fully saturated in here. It's fully absorbed. And I'm going to flip it just to show you the difference in the texture. We have a good water reserve, so it has taken in more than it needs. And just for this purpose, I'll keep the water in, because typically at the end of a design I create, I always add water in the reserve. We're always thinking about that. For commercial purposes, for deliveries, you don't need to do that, obviously. I mean, that's not quite a good idea. It'd be swishing and swashing about. So we always want to travel with less water on board, as it were, and try to keep our trucks and everything in good shape. So you don't need a lot of water. It absorbs very quickly. And then we can just come in with nice little sticks, and in it goes, in and down. There's the line. I want to create a little dynamic line, and I do this with a dried red dogwood branch that came from my garden, not someone else's, and or at least if someone else's with permission. Another thing about sustainable floristry practices is that we want to try to keep the chain all well connected. And what I mean by the chain is the floral industry chain. It's not just about the end-use florist or designer or home hobbyist. It's actually a lot more than that. It's about the breeders that are breeding the florals that we use for our event work, our sympathy work, our celebration, holiday works, or just the I love flowers and I have to have them in my house works. It also talks about the growers of what the breeders have developed. It talks about the distribution chain, the shipping and handling, all of these things. And the sort of farm-to-table floristry movement is the epitome of floral sustainability, because we're trying to cut inside and get out of the chain anything that's taking away energy or has a carbon footprint. So the more direct, the better. So if it's from the garden, or even better when we're talking about sustainable floristry, mechanical tools like mosses and branches and so forth. The growers in your local flower market, not the supermarket, but the growers that are supporting the flower market, say in Portland, Oregon, or in San Francisco or Boston, they are growing and harvesting product sustainably, ethically, and almost always legally. So the idea of we need to be foraging everything for our supplies to be sustainable is just the opposite of the truth. It's not. It's obviously you take advantage of what you have. For example, I have a wonderful magnolia tree that needed trimming last year, and right now I need a special branch and texture and color for my design, my next insertion. So this branch was taken down. It was sad, I had to do it, and I did it while it was budded up, and I saw such opportunity in that. So now I'm simply going to go from this branch, and I can create some wonderful forms. And what I really love about this work and this shape is that I am now going to show you how to just create a natural wooden structure for bouquet work. Now, a lot of talk about the spiderweb technique, which is done with wires and paper-covered wires or other materials. I'd like to suggest an alternative, and that would be to use the natural shapes of a branch. You see a solid side here, nice and trim, and cleaned up, and it would be a really smooth piece set next to a similar size. And you would only need about 3, 4, 5 of those, and then you could weave in with natural materials, 100% cotton, perhaps yarns. We have some farmers that are making their own yarn 2 towns away. It's really nice to see it, and the stand, and I've seen the sheep out, and right from there. And so I'll be sourcing some yarn, hopefully, from them. And here's one more. Now, this could be a bouquet, like I said, structure, and you would use this as your rigid form with just branches, and then soften up this, and then you come in with the florals. I'm going to use this just to add a little bit of contrast to the branch dogwood. Now, this is also somewhat dry, but I'm cutting it anyway. Actually, it's not quite dry altogether. I see a nice green layer inside, and just poking the branches, and soon I will have, I like that left-handed insertion. I just made bigger hole than I needed. I went a little deeper and it was fine. And here, wow, I love my scissors. I close them and they open up all by themselves. There, they need a little bit of mineral oil. And here I have a nice base for this design. Now, I have some nice dynamic line happening, a good rhythm, and it kind of is two-sided. So, kind of like every person, we all have two sides. At this point, I would go in the garden, or I would go to my local flower market, and I may want some mosses or something that could add interest and distinction and be an additional water source. Perhaps up here I could connect these two with some moss and so forth from, if not your own garden, from your local grower at the garden market, the flower market at your nearest town. That's how we want to be sustainable, keep the chain alive. We keep working together as one chain, and ultimately the end user, the florist, or the home designer, or the garden club member, is the one that decides who and how will be the recipient or the person working with these materials. So indeed, everything is an individual choice, and that's what it's all about. Get educated first. So those of you who are teachers and are introducing Agrawool, maybe get educated first and know a little bit more about the product and understand how it's worked with. And it's good advice for you as a teacher, indeed, to say, practice, practice, practice. One thing that'll always help with both the traditional foams or Agrawool is the use of a companion tool. I just use bamboo skewers or the free chopsticks I get with I like to eat my Chinese food with chopsticks, and I get some nice bamboo ones. This is actually probably the best. It's tapered and then comes down, and it's natural bamboo. So you can just do a pre-drill and then do an insertion if you want another larger stem, or with the bamboo, just a little pre-drill and up for the tender little ones, like those wonderful bleeding hearts, which is what will be added in for the final design here today. You won't see that. I'll have it posted on Facebook. So have a great day, have a great week. Start thinking about sustainability in the garden, what it really means and what it doesn't mean. And let's all be part of the team that are going to make this move forward in our industry, not as a trend. This is not a trend. It never was. It wasn't a trend back in the history of floral design. And a lot of the elements of it, the mosses and sphagnum and all of these things, have been available during the entire reign of the plastic foam industry. And that's changing. We're protecting the source. Think away from plastics. No matter how long you think or are told, they break down in. Single-use plastics are the biggest problem for our planet and our source. So get away from the plastics. Think wood. Think water. Think different mechanics. But that's how you saturate and soak Agrawool. That is a responsible way. We haven't wasted 5 or 10 gallons of water. We do it directly. So the most efficient and most sustainable way. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.